5, now 7.5, 7.5, now 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, now 12.5, 12.5, now 15, 12.5, now 15, 12.5, now 15, sold. $12.50.
You should do that on your Lex listing presentation. What do you guys want to list your house for? You want $199.99. Hey, so welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have Bethany Benner with us today from Oak Ridge Realty, Real Estate, I believe it is, in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Now, what you don't know is this is the second time we started this podcast, because the first time I was in Jackson Hole, and 30 minutes into this very riveting, no pressure on you, Bethany, but unbelievable podcast, all the power went out. So here we are again. Bethany, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Well, I'm gonna give them a little scoop on why I have you here. So just listen up. For the people listening right now, so Bethany has really taken real estate by storm. The note I wrote down is, maybe it was the fact that she was a 3-sport college athlete. That's pretty badass. Or the fact that she's just a battle-tested sales and negotiation, rock star, from being a VP of marketing and sales for 15 years, running a family business, plus a family auction business. And yes, I will be testing her on speed and chanting sometime today. But listen to this. In just 2.5 years of selling homes, she has literally gone from 0 to 182 closed transactions in that time period. 41 sales her first year, 74 the next year. And as we sit here in whatever month we're in, I think August, she's already had 62 transactions. So she's absolutely killing it. Bethany, thank you for being on the show again. I want to start with the obvious question. You were in a VP of sales and marketing. You had a family business you were helping to run. Help people, just give them a little taste of what that looked like, so they're going to have a little more context for how you sold 41 homes your first year in the business.
Yeah. So, I kind of grew up in the business. My dad's an auctioneer, and just being a part of this real estate business in general. So,
Yeah.
I knew it was something that I always wanted to do, was get into this business, just because it was just second nature to me to see the transaction happen just in a little bit of a different way. It's just been really good for me to transition, but I spent 15 years in that VP role, wanted to do something outside of what I knew. And it's been interesting the last couple of years to see what I can do on my own. So. Right.
So unpack for people though, the auction business, was it land? Was it real estate? Like what were you guys selling in the auction business?
All of the above. So,
yeah. Yeah.
So I grew up on a farm, so have that farm work ethic. And so growing up, we would clean out people's houses and we would do household auctions. We had two big farm machinery auctions, so that we would have every single year. We do land auctions. And so anything really, toy auctions and antique auctions. So all of it.
Love it. So, and obviously you can do the chant.
I can. I'm not as good as my dad, but I can definitely do it.
Give us just a little taste.
I always tell people I don't do this unless I've had a cocktail or two.
Hold on, quickly, get her a drink.
Maybe we'll do that later.
All right, she's like, hold on, I need to warm up. Dad, this is awesome. So you did that for 15 years, and there's a lot of dynamics in running a family business. And then you decide to transition into residential real estate. So you'd been around it, but not really in it. So how did you make that decision? And maybe what were you looking at if it wasn't going to be residential real estate? What was your plan B?
Yeah. So I helped my dad. Like, he really ran it. I was really there for support. Him and his wife and my stepmom really run it. She's now a broker at a real estate organization back home. And so they really run everything. I was there to just help them support it. I just was a big piece of it, but decided I didn't really want to run the family business. It was a big conversation. Yeah. And I saw how hard he worked. He works his tail off. They both do. And so that's why I decided to break off, went to college, got my master's, and decided to, I kind of grew up in the business of cell phones. And so, ran that for 15 years, but just would always see their life and everything that they were doing. And so that's what I branched off of, saying, I don't want really anything to do with that business. I think you guys are doing, I couldn't do it justice. My dad is incredible. Him and his wife are incredible doing that. I couldn't follow in their footsteps. I wouldn't do I'm not good enough for that. So they just do a really good job. So that's why I decided, you know what, I want to just do a piece of it. If that real estate, I watched them and how they took care of their customers and their clients and built that relationship. So I literally just mocked what I saw from them. And that's when I decided, after 15 years of being in the corporate world, I wanted to do real estate, but I watched what I saw from them, and that's what I took and ran with my own.
I love it. So talk about the corporate side really fast before we talk real estate, just to give people more context, right? So 15 years of corporate in the cell phone industry, or like which company? Give us just some optics there.
Yeah, so I started off as like a regular sales associate in college, just needed a part-time job, and it just kind of took off from there, became an area manager and then worked my way up to the VP role of sales and marketing. And it's for a small regional carrier in Iowa, and ran some stores in Iowa and Illinois. And in the process, also the owner had a salon. And so he asked me to help run that as well. So I kind of did both roles. So I had understood the commission side from a contractor side from the commission from the salon world, but also understood the compensation side from the cell phone world, because that's just how I grew up. So that's what I did for 15 years, and just helped with that business and understood the business from the ground up.
Love it. So you go into real estate, and again, like the backstory always gives us more context, right? Otherwise, it's like looking at a puzzle that's upside down, right? As soon as you look it over and you're like, wait a minute, okay, I see all the pieces. I understand how it all comes together. But I got to ask you first, 3 sports. I know you played golf because we talked about it before. What were the other 2 sports you played in college?
Yeah, so I went, softball's my passion. I do love a good softball game.
Yeah.
And then basketball, and then play golf.
So do you think the competitive nature of just obviously your DNA plays into this? Like you walked into the office and you're like, who's number one? I'm taking her out, or him. Like, was that your mindset? Do you have a little of that killer mindset, or is it just work ethic? Like, help me understand, and then we'll get into all the details.
Yeah, honestly, both. I'm super competitive. Most everybody knows that about me. That's just me. That's just my mindset. I kind of figured out who did what, and I'm like, oh, I can, that's my goal. I'm going to do that. That's my goal. I'm going to go after it. But you can't get there without work ethic. And growing up on a farm, you don't, and helping my dad, you don't have a choice. If he says, we're going to go clean out a house, we go clean out a house. That's what needs to be done. So just the work ethic from the minute you get up in the morning to the minute you go home, and that's just what you do to make it. If you want to hit your goals, you got to put the work in.
Yeah. So some would argue like, oh my goodness, could you imagine this guy like worked in like New York City or Beverly Hills, West Side LA, where these monster sales prices, right? Do you think it would translate?
I absolutely think it'll translate. I think in real estate, you have to work hard. Like you can't just sit back and hope that it, falls in your lap and you get really lucky. Don't get me wrong. I've gotten lucky, but I always think the harder you work, the luckier you get.
100%.
So
let's talk about year 1, right? If you go back and reflect on, you did 41 transactions. You started in May from memory, right? So you started in May and you did 41 transactions, call it in your first 7 months. Tell us about a typical day. What worked, what didn't, what were some of the big lessons, reflecting back on this long career of 2.5 years.
Yeah, really long. So I think my first closing was May 6th. I remember it like it was yesterday. And so 41 transactions from May 6th till the end of the year. I walked in and literally looked around the office and was like, I need to figure out who is successful. Who can I steal ideas from? Because I'm not here to recreate the wheel. Like there's no secret sauce that I have. But I went around and said, how are you successful? Can I have 5 minutes of your time? I just want to know how did you get to where you're going, or where you're at. And I just started taking everything from everybody. And I tried to, if somebody was going on a showing, I'd be like, can I go with you? Listing appointment. Can I jump in? I just want to be a mouse. I just want to hear. Sometimes it's just riding around with people and listening to conversations with clients. So I did a ton of that. Just to be able, like I can talk to anybody, but I feel like I needed to know what I was talking about.
Right. You need to learn the specific language. So what's so brilliant about this is, Bethany, most people that come in the industry and sort of the joke is, you go through training, right? You pick an office and they sit you at a desk and you look around and there's like 5 other people that are all brand new sitting in the brand new section of the office, and none of them are selling any houses, and that becomes your role model, right? So Tuesdays is Mexican food is what you got from a role model versus you went out and you actively pursued the most successful people in the company who was doing what. And you're like, can I just go follow you? Can I just go listen? Like there's just something to that that gives you that extra edge, that confidence. But talk about maybe what didn't work. What didn't work? Like reflecting back on your first year, where did you struggle? Where was it hard? Because 41 sounds like a lot of success, but I know you got punched in the gut a bunch metaphorically.
Oh, for sure. I think I think back to, I invested in some things I probably shouldn't have because I
Yeah.
just didn't know.
Right.
So I did some online stuff that everyone's like, oh, it's going to be great. And it just tanked.
Yeah.
So I kind of messed with some of that stuff. I think my biggest thing in my first year was you have to invest in your business to make it a
Right.
successful business. So that was one of my investments that I felt like I would never do again.
Yeah.
Um, I think that I should have. For me, I felt like I got really busy really quickly, and I
Yeah.
wish I would have set up some systems ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I did last year and this year. I realized I was like, I'm in a hamster wheel that's not stopping,
Yeah.
and I really should have set up some things to make me successful, so that I felt like I was sometimes running like a chicken with my head cut off, and that was not efficient with my time and efficiency with what I was doing.
Right. I mean, I hear that from a ton of people. Like, God, if I just would have slowed down and actually put the systems in place, whether it was a checklist or a process or your marketing, this is how I do it. But let's go back just for a second. How did you generate clients in that first year? Like, what was did you just call you had a big sphere, you just called everybody and everyone said, oh, I'd love to buy a house from you. Like, what did you do? What worked? What didn't from a lead generation standpoint?
Yeah. So a lot of my friends were the reason I got into Oak Ridge was one of the partners here was a good friend of mine. So anybody that bought a house, any of our friends was buying through him. So nobody was,
Right.
at that point I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to count on my friends because they already have a relationship. So I got to figure this out on my own. I
Yeah.
can't, and give them a couple of years to kind of get comfortable with me. So for that instance, I think for me, where did I get my leads? I invested in and I did online leads out of the gate just for some quick successes to put some money in the bank so that
Yep.
I could really get myself set up for success. And I was smart with my money when it came down to, tax account and marketing money and what I was going to do with that. I wanted to make sure that I was really, I didn't want to always do online leads. That's not my goal. My goal is to always have that base that's going to constantly refer. But I knew out of the gate, I saw that around the office. That was one of the things that a lot of people were doing and it was working. So that was the one thing I did that I felt like was very successful for me for that first year.
So you also mentioned though in the earlier part when I asked you about like what didn't work, you said there were some online things that I bought into that didn't work. And without having disparaging comments about, a bunch of these different companies because there's so many lead aggregators out there. Which one for you worked? Just giving people some context.
Yeah, so in our area, Zillow worked really well for me, and realtor.com. So
Yeah.
those were the two that I felt in our area, that's where we were getting. I did some Facebook generation leads and I was getting a ton of them, but there was
Right.
nothing. I was getting 20, 30, 40 a day. I couldn't keep up. I was wasting my time. I closed one out of 1,000 that I had. So it just, my return on my investment with Zillow and realtor.com were better for me.
Absolutely. So if you go back to, that first year, you're taking on all these leads and, RDC and Zillow and others, there's a bunch of great sources out there. Facebook, no doubt, is effective for branding and letting people know who you are. And we get, people will slide into your DMs and it's more of a past client transaction that do you count it as Facebook or not? Otherwise, it's super top of funnel and great to just put in your database and nurture. But you're right, like the conversion is 1 out of 500, right? So what did you learn about online leads specifically? Because it sounds more buy side in the beginning, correct?
Yeah, I was very, very heavy buy side my first and my second year. 34 out of the 41 transactions were on the buyer side. So that's for me, that was, I only had 7 sellers. So what I learned, I am follow up. I mean, I was on my phone if you called in, there was a reason you called in, and I'm going to figure out that reason, and I'm going to get in front of you, and I'm going to figure out how we can get you, you to achieve whatever that end goal is. And if that's,
Yeah.
you wanted your dream house, whatever that is. But, and I followed up, like I constantly and even to this day, that is something I felt like I've been really, really good at, is if I get 20 minutes, I was constantly, hey, did you see this house? This would be a great fit for you. Let's meet. I'll just trying to just keep in front of them.
Yeah. And again, like I know maybe for someone might be listening to this that's brand new and they're like, oh my goodness, like, so does this mean I need to go to work for my family business, then go become a salesperson, the VP of sales and marketing, to have her, her professionalism? You think the answer is yes or no? Do you think what you did by acquiring leads just accelerated your opportunity to have more at bats, sort of metaphorically, with softball?
Yeah. I don't think you don't need to do my professional path. I think for me, like when I talk to any of our new realtors that have come in the office now, I sit them down and I'm like, here's what I did, and here's what you need to do. Here's take the 5 things that I wish I would have done, or or the 5 things that I did that I think you need to copy, and go and talk to everybody else. But you don't need to follow my path. You don't need to be in the business for 15 years to get that experience. I think the biggest thing is just to be humble enough to take it in, and don't think that you know it all. You have to learn from everybody around you. And maybe you don't take everything that everybody says, but take something, because we need to learn every day in order to be successful. And because this business is changing every day.
Right. I mean, that's why, you're so perfect in our culture, because it's all about R&D, right? Find out what everybody else is doing, rip off and duplicate, right? But let's talk about time. And we're going to get into year 2, because year 2 is a pandemic. So, you accelerated your growth, which doesn't shock me at all, but it was a very different environment. But managing your time, and I know you're married, your husband's got his own business, you got 2 daughters. So, do you have like 15 people on your staff? Like, how do you manage it all? Because it's, especially being so buy-side heavy. Like, talk to us about time hacks, things you do, what worked. Do you have an assistant? Give us all of that.
Yeah. So I did not have an assistant in year 1 or year 2. I did it all on my own. I do have a family, and my husband, I have 2 kids. Now she's 9, she just had a birthday, and 3. So very busy.
Right.
But everything it happens in my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. So I time block almost everything. And then in between appointments, that's when I'm following up or doing different stuff. So unfortunately, sometimes, if you go out for dinner with your husband or your family, you put that in your calendar, so that way it's an appointment. Because a lot of times, if you don't tell people that you got to have some boundaries, if you don't tell people that if you have an appointment and you can't do it, then it just doesn't happen.
Right. So, again, you're speaking my love language. If it's not your schedule, it doesn't exist. But I guess the question is, like, where does this drive come from? I mean, you're clearly going to do, looking at the numbers, this is going to be another phenomenal year, 80, 90, 100 transactions. You finally got an assistant, thank goodness, right? But where does this drive come from? I mean, is it just the athletics, the competitive nature? Like, do you have siblings that you guys would like see who could throw the paper airplane the farthest? Like, where did it all start out for you?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just that I got my mom and my dad. My dad obviously is very successful in what he's doing and his business. My mom, the work ethic, she worked in a factory for 30 plus years. So in order you got to have a work ethic if you're going to go to this job for 30 years and do the same thing over and over. I think for me, it's the competitive side. I do have a sister that I just got her in the business this last year, but we're 10 years apart. So we didn't really grow up together. So I was only a child. And so it's in my gut that I want to succeed, and I have goals, and my husband and I go every year. We go away for a night or 2 nights, and we do a vision board. We talk about what are our goals for this year? What are your goals for your business? What are the goals for mine? And I've noticed that when I put stuff on paper, it comes to fruition.
Right. So what do you say to the person that maybe is listening, like, God, if I just had her energy and her drive, like, I wasn't wired that way. Things were too easy for me growing up. I didn't have those parents. What do you say to that person to have them understand that it's possible?
it's all about your attitude. It's all about looking in the mirror and removing those excuses that everybody wants to give themselves of,
Yeah.
well, I'm just too tired today, or I'll do it tomorrow, or that buyer's not going to be there tomorrow. That seller is going to find somebody else. In this
Right.
market, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. A lot of people want things and they want them now. And
Yeah.
so a lot of you have to have a sense of urgency to make it happen. And you got to push yourself, come up with a routine, and you have to follow that routine every single day. And yes, your days change, and you need to find an accountability partner. You need to
Right.
find somebody, a mentor. You need to find somebody that's going to push you. And in our office, I found a couple people that I would be like, oh, and they'd be like, you said, and then
Yeah.
they'd nudge me. But you have
Right.
sometimes, because everybody goes and has a bad day, but you need
Sure.
somebody that's going to hold you accountable and going to make sure that you're trying to hit your goals because they care about you.
And can you overdo it? Can you have too much accountability?
No, I mean, yes and no, but I think it depends. I mean, if it's done right, I think
Mhm.
people will respect that, at least for me. Like there'd
Yeah.
be days where like, I want to hear it from you. And they're like, but you told me you did. And
Right.
that's sometimes all it took.
Yeah. So when did you first get a coach?
Just this past year, this
So 2020.
2021, actually, this.
Oh, this year. Got it. Even better.
Yeah, so I looked at my numbers and I just felt like I was so buyer heavy and I really wanted to work. I just felt like I needed some more time back in my life.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I didn't have the systems in place still. I felt like I was okay, but I
Yeah.
just didn't feel like I wasn't there yet and I needed help.
So I want to we'll explore that more because I was like the whole systems and tech is all, something I want to unpack. But I want to go back to 2020. 2020 was a rough and hard and challenging and emotional year for so many people. And yet you and I both know housing, depending upon where you were in the world, in the country of the US, really just took off. Whether you look at it April, May, June, July, it went completely gangbusters. And it's almost hard to say that how many people I know that had their absolute best year ever last year in the midst of all that tragedy. I'm just curious for you, like, what were some of the big ahas or takeaways or lessons that took place in 2020 during the pandemic that you're carrying into this year?
Good question. So, yeah, I did have a great year last year. We didn't slow down a ton, but I did not slow down at all.
Yeah.
But some people chose to do that, and that's okay. I
Right.
didn't choose to do that. I figured out how to overcome the obstacle of, okay, I can't go see the house right now, but I can do a virtual tour. Or, we all need to suit up and have plastic gloves and we need to have masks and
Yep.
booties on our shoes and we're going to make it happen. You go in, I'll be right here. Whatever you have to meet the buyers and the sellers and where they're at and where they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to be flexible. And that's just what I learned last year is you just have to roll with it. You gotta figure out, because change is hard for a lot of people, but if you're not willing to change and willing to change your strategy, then if you're going to do the same thing over and over again, you're going to be in the same place.
Right. Right. So obviously, everybody can hear the consistent theme of sort of your mindset around like, hey, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. Work ethic, drive, family business, corporate life, starting in real estate. So was there a low point for you at all last year or no? It sounds like you just motored through.
There was a couple weeks there where we were uncertain what was going to happen.
Right.
And, I came from a 6-figure income job and I was a year into it thinking, what did I get myself into?
Right.
Nobody would have written this on the wall that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
What I do. So for a
Yeah.
couple weeks, it got really, really quiet because the state started to shut down.
Right.
And we were trying to figure out, the lenders were trying to figure out, how do we still meet with clients? Can we meet with clients?
Yeah.
Some of them didn't have the Zoom set up, things that just technology wasn't there. And so I think for me, just was like, okay, sitting down and figuring out, I can't panic.
Yeah.
I have buyers that still want to see things. I have sellers that still need to sell. Let's focus on what we can do rather than what we can't do.
Yeah.
and just move forward that way. Cause that's about all I can do.
Yeah.
I can't control the uncontrollables.
How much did you up your own game when it came to tech last year?
Um,
Like, were you on Zoom prior? Like, was that a platform you were using all the time? Like,
Yeah, and in my past life, being in that role, I did a lot of virtual stuff because I had just a bigger territory. So I was
yeah.
very, very familiar with it. But yeah, so we usually have meetings. We went to some in-person meetings, but then had to do some Zoom stuff.
Yeah.
I did meet with some people, some of my sellers and some of my buyers via Zoom,
Yeah.
where I wouldn't normally do. But I met them with where they were at. So if they were comfortable with, maybe we met outside on a picnic bench because they felt more
Yeah.
comfortable that way.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't want to sell for a couple months. So we tabled some of that and we worked through that. But technology wise, Zoom would probably be the biggest thing that we really implemented from a virtual standpoint. And then videos, which we were already doing for listings and stuff. So putting them into our Paragon.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I think it's so much fun for us to reflect back as a company because we started using Zoom as a coaching platform almost 5 years ago now. So when I remember like doing my first pivot event, which was happening all in the middle of, the very early stage of COVID in the US, just telling my clients, hey, you already use Zoom. Just send a link to your client and say, we can meet this way. And they're like, oh, right. It was, you know what I mean? Like you just saw these people just like the lights went on. They're like, okay, I can do this. Right. So let's talk about 2021. So you make the decision to hire a coach. How did that come about?
Well, I definitely creeped on you for a very long time.
I felt that. Yes.
I think that was one of the things when I started. I
Sure.
went to every podcast. I went to every
Yep.
YouTube video. That was, if I had any downtime, I was
Yeah.
trying to listen to everything, trying to learn. And so obviously
Right.
it came up a lot. And so I did reach out in 2019 and 2020. And at that point, I just didn't feel like I was ready. I felt like
Yeah.
there's a ton of chaos in my life and I was
Yeah.
still learning. So I wasn't ready to jump into that. So that's when at the end of 2020, I was like, I took on 63 buyers in 2020. And I was like, I drove my wheels off. And so
Right.
that's when I just said, you know what? I think I need to step back and I need somebody to help me really organize myself and come up with some goals and really hold me accountable and stretch me.
So 9 listings sold, if I'm doing the math correctly, and 63. I have a client. Big shout out to Nahid Benyamani if you're listening. She would love this because she is just the queen of buyers in Southern California, and she'll do 60 or 70 buyer sales, right, as a solo agent now with like a team. Her son's involved and some others, but like she just loves it, right? I mean, obviously you're good at it, but you had an intention, it sounds like, to become a little more listing dominant. So talk to us about what you and your coach have started to put in place, because this is clearly still new. We're sitting here in August, right? It takes time to implement these kind of bigger, broader changes because you still have buyer demand coming in. So tell us how you're balancing that out and what you're focusing on to get more listings.
Yeah. So we really came up with her and I just came up with a strategy and she said, what are your goals? And I just said, I need to figure out, I still want to do a great business. I still want to do some buyers, but
Yeah.
I would like to spend some more time at home. I think I was gone
Right.
5 or 6 nights a week. And so I said, I would just like a night or two back with my
Yeah.
family. And so I said, I'd like to pull away from some online leads and really focus on my sphere and my client base. And so we just came up with our goals, or my goals of, okay, what does that look like? So we put a marketing plan in place. I switched my CRM I think it's a little bit more user friendly. And I've organized my database. So my sphere, my past clients, I'm doing an online newsletter right now. We went to HomeBot, one of the things that kind of blew my mind was she's like, well, how many times are you contacting your clients? And I'm like, and she's like, you should be contacting them 24 to 36 times a year. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that. So that's where really putting some of those things into place has really helped me make that shift.
Yeah. So your online newsletter, like an email newsletter, which, I'm a huge fan of email marketing, and it's such an untapped opportunity for most real estate professionals. So you went from 0 to HomeBot, which is awesome. You should break down how you're using it, and then email, and then we'll talk about the database sort of reorg. But talk about HomeBot first in the email newsletter. and what worked, what didn't, what have you found, and then how's it working?
Yeah. So email newsletter, I looked at a ton of them, and
Yeah.
then actually came back to all of them just felt really boxy to me. And I wanted it to feel very local and very genuine. So
Yeah.
I just created one in Canva, and it's very
Yep.
local to our area. Like, here's the things that are happening in our area. And then I do a little insert of, hey, this is what Bethany's talking about now. And I'll put a picture of my family. Like, I just want it to be very genuine.
Homey.
And this is
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah. Hyper local. So how much time does that take you to put together, or is that now something your assistant's doing for you?
Yep, that's what my assistant does. So I don't
Love it.
even touch it other than telling her, nope, I don't like this, or change that.
Yeah, you get to be the editor, not the chief staff writer. And then what about HomeBot? Like, why did you select that product versus others? This is not a shout out for HomeBot, but like we have a lot of clients that use it. So why did you do it?
Yeah, so I did it because I wanted, I felt like I talked to my coach and she's like, I really love it. And so I kind of dabbled in it a little bit, but I really did it because once you put your clients in there, they can check back and then you can
Right.
see when they're
Right.
looking at it. So I can reach out and be like, hey, what do you think about this? You want me to send you one? Are you thinking about selling?
Yeah.
And so really talk through to make sure that I'm staying in front of them. Because if I can see it, some of them are looking at it twice a week or whatever, and I can be like, why are you looking at this? Like, are you thinking about selling? So it just really gives
Yeah.
me that conversation starter.
Is it creepy for them? They're like, how do you know? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? How do you know that I'm looking at it at 12:01 at night? How do they respond to that when you call?
It's all in the delivery. It's all
Yeah.
in like, hey, what's happening? Like, you just, as long as you're genuine and you're just
Yeah.
like, hey, I just implemented this new system. What do you think? I saw that you looked at it.
Yeah.
Is it useful? Do you want better numbers? Like, I'd be happy to meet with you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so good. It is. It's all delivery, right? Because you could still be looking at their tech and know that they're on it, and not come across like a creeper. So HomeBot email database, and then when you said you reorganized you went to a Lion's Desk, I think it's the CRM you were using, or did you
From
use
Lion's Desk to Follow Up Boss.
to Follow Up Boss? Love it. Follow Up Boss will be happy to hear that. They're one of the sponsors at this year's Success Summit. So yay, Follow Up Boss and Lion's Desk. Those guys are great. I'm not razzing them. So what did you do in terms of organization of your database?
Yeah. So before Lines Us, I had just done it because, and I just didn't, I felt like for me, it just wasn't working for me. So I went in and put everybody in there and then integrated all of my leads that will just dump into there. So now
Yep.
if a Zillow lead comes in, it's a Zillow. So if I want to send an
Yep.
email database to Zillow, I can just get Zillow people. I put my sphere in there. So if I just want to send a postcard to just my sphere, it goes to my sphere. If I want to do everything email wise, my whole email newsletter goes to everybody. So it can be I can target very specific things. One of the things that I integrated the reason I kind of started this was there was I pulled some old realtor lists. So realtors in the area that are no longer licensed and that I called them abandoned clients. And so I put them in a specific list so I can target them that, hey, you've owned your house for 5 years. So very specific lists for them, very specific letters to them.
Wow. So I want to be clear, agents that are no longer in the business, you're marketing to their former client or 5 or 10 or whatever it is.
Yep. If they don't have somebody in, if I know that, maybe they didn't do a ton or do whatever.
Yep.
Or I've reached out to, clients and I've done it in my office. That's really where it is, just to keep in touch.
Right.
And it's worked. I've gotten a listing off it. I just sold a house off of it. So, I've just started that probably 4 to 6 months ago on it.
Good for you. So there's my friends at 1000 Watt. Big shout out to Brian and Mark and the gang there. I joined this little insider group, and one of the reports they recently published is really, let's just call it the impact of a lack of loyalty. And what they're referring to is consumers, right? What they want is they want to talk to their real estate professional. It's like 82% of them want to hear from their agent, but the number of agents that actually follow up was startlingly, as we all know, low. Now, you could argue that there's a bunch of people that are just hacks in this business that sell a house now and then versus professionals like yourself and the people listening to this podcast that are a lot more, let's just say, attentive to their clients' needs. But it was like something like 46% of every consumer after they bought the house wanted to know, how much is my home worth now? They want to keep, I want to know. That's why I love the HomeBot product and other products that do that. So when you hear those numbers, like, are you shocked by that? The lack of loyalty, I'll just go to Zillow or someplace else because my agent's not reaching out?
I'm not actually shocked because I've been in that Zillow world for the last couple of years. It's been really interesting. And that's why I reached out to you guys from a
Yeah.
loyalty standpoint, because I found that with some of these Zillow leads, like I would show them 2 or 3 houses and then they would be like, oh, well, I'm going here. And so
Yeah.
I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't have my people that I have built a relationship with do the same thing. I've got to figure that out. And so that's why I
Yep.
put those systems in place, because it's a punch to the gut when you see one of your clients list a house, or a brother of a client
Right.
list a house with somebody else. And you're like, what could I have done? I should have done
Right.
better.
Right. While I was interviewing you 2 days later, I was interviewing Tim and Kurt Harland, who are some of the great agents in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And they said, we used to have the wall of fame, but we decided to put up the wall of shame, which was every transaction we lost because we didn't follow up. And I was like, oh, like we could all feel that pain, right? Talk to me about marketing. You said I put a marketing plan in place, and coming from your background, I would assume you would have done that. But you come into real estate, and there's just so many things to do, and you got buyers, and you're showing houses, you got kids and life. So tell us about the marketing plan. How did you put it in place? What's in it? What does it look like? What's a typical week or month from a marketing standpoint look like in your business?
Yeah. So I like I said, I coming from a marketing background, we had a plan. It was great. And then when I got into real estate, it was it was gone. So
Yeah.
I'm too busy learning, too much going on. So that's
Yep.
so this year I literally just printed out a Google Calendar, like a blank Google Calendar, and just started writing, okay, I want a postcard to go out this day. I want a letter to go out this day to this person. This needs to go out this day. And we literally just stick to it every single month. I have a calendar. I'm in my office now. I have a calendar, a dry erase board. Here's what this needs to go out. This needs to go out. My assistant has one over here. She knows when she needs to do stuff. So it's just sticking to it, and just making sure that we're following it, because if you miss one month, then a lot of stuff you did just went to waste.
Right. So you broke down all the pieces, all the people, and it sounds like it's email, it's direct mail. What about phone calls? What about social? Are you active on Instagram and all these things that we all talk about and see so many people doing? Give us a little insight on the social side.
Yeah. So we have a platform here that is called Back at You. So it has some content for us. I can do so much better on social media. I'm probably better personally than I am on
Yeah.
my business. But I do post, my assistant posts every time I sell a house, is on there. And that goes on my newsletter too. So people can see she's busy, she's working, she knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's really, but I could do so much better on social media. I see everybody's stuff and videos and I want to be like that.
Yeah.
I'm just not there yet. It's coming at some point, but my biggest thing is to be super genuine with just people in my sphere. I try to friend
Right.
my clients, and then when they have a birthday or they have, a kid or whatever, I try to comment as much as possible, because I know that when I post something, I love it when people reach out and,
Right.
do that stuff, and it's another connection.
Yeah. So certainly, more on that coming soon at the summit, and all the stuff you can do with the Loom, Jason Pantana, Courtney, who's right here inside my office. Let's talk about like the future. What do you think of the next for you? If for everybody listening right now, I don't care when you're listening to this. If we're still in 2021, Happy New Year. Because this year is over. Right? Everything that you put in place last year, you're getting the positive or negative, impact from. So you started all these systems and processes, and Bethany, like the real impact of your marketing plan is going to be your business in 2022, right? Like that's just the way it works. So my question for you is, you and your coach, what are those 3, 4, 5 moves you're thinking about making for next year and for the following year?
Yeah. So next year, following year is continuing with this marketing piece. Just continue with the marketing plan. That's number one, and
Yep.
really digging in and doing some different things in that marketing piece. One thing that we did this year was I partnered with some local businesses to do like a buy one get one pizza, buy one get one ice cream, because I just feel like I was sending postcards and not and it was like, oh, look at me, or do this. So I want to do some give stuff. So that's kind of what I want to continue doing, is just
Yep.
making sure that there's some substance behind that. So for sure, marketing coming. That's I want to make sure that I'm reaching out. I do some drop buys a lot, and I'm going to continue doing that. And really those conversations and just, text messages back and forth, of, hey, thanks for the Halloween basket, or thanks for the Easter basket, things like that. So those will continue. I think I still can really refine my CRM and what I'm doing. And I think I can, I think for me, just really buttoning up some listing presentation stuff to make sure that I can be a better listing agent as well. So, but I think for me, just overall marketing and just making sure that I have those big pieces, because I don't think, I started my farm. I haven't seen anything from my farm this year. I'm going to see that next year. I'm going to see that the year after.
Yeah. So, so I'm in the process, for everybody listening, of going through tens and tens and tens of listing attraction case studies. Right. So our clients are saying, hey, this is what's working for me this year to get the most amount of listings, and, past clients in Sphere and agent referrals, database, geographic farming, expired listings and FSBOs, like the whole gamut. Right. But it's interesting going through a couple of them that were really good with direct mail. And they all said the same thing. When they added the QR code to the direct mail, they started instantly generating more business. We're sitting there, at the trash can, direct mail, trash. But they're like, oh, wait, hold on. Yes, I am curious about the value of my home, or, what happened with that sale, or, hey, I want to take advantage of that BOGO as an example of the pizza place, right? So just for everybody listening, if you haven't played around with QR codes, they were hot 12 years ago. And I don't know, like 11.9 years ago, they were no longer hot. They were in and gone, but the pandemics put them on steroids, right? So I would strongly recommend everybody listening right now to think about that. Let's talk about your listing presentation. Where do you want to improve? Where are the gaps? Where are the holes? Where do you want to get better?
Yeah. So I feel like sometimes, for those people those engineers or those I bring a ton, and sometimes they really want to dig in, and we have a lot of that. But I also just feel like one of the things that I can do just so much better is just coming up with a very professional one. I feel like we have a great listing booklet from Oak Ridge in general. And then I feel like I just kind of, one piece after another comes out. And I think it would just be really nice to have like a bunch of stuff together, but just way more organized. Yeah. So that's kind of one of my goals for the end of the year. I doubled my listings from last year to this year, and I just feel like that I can just do so much more if I felt like I was a little bit more professional in that area.
Do you feel like you have the confidence you need going in on those appointments?
I'm getting there. I did not have it out of the gate. And I still feel like sometimes when I go in with numbers and pages everywhere, that it kind of feels like, oh gosh, what's she doing?
Yeah. But again, as we sit here, we're only 8 months into the new year, and you've had 9 listings sell 2 years back to back. You're already at 18. So that's a huge improvement. Is Coach Colleen happy, or is she still beating on you?
She's very happy, but she still beats on me.
I had a feeling, because she is tough as nails. So your next 3 moves, like continue on your marketing plan, which is brilliant, right? Brilliant basics, more drop-bys, more connections, that personal touch. Love it. Refining your CRM. What does that mean? Like, give me an example. Like, how will you know when it's refined? Like, what are you going to do?
I think so. I've been in it. I just need to be in it more. I need to do more follow-up. I need to do, and I think that just making sure that it's, I don't care what CRM you're using, you just got to use it. And that's where I'm at this point. I'm like, I need to use it every single day. My assistant's in it every day. I'm just used to like sending text messages and not feeding into the system, because I just go down and do 10 or 15 of them. So I really would like to pull some data at the end of the year and be like, how many times did I really talk to them or touch them? And so that way I know where I'm at. And I just don't have a good gauge on that right now.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, I'm all about it's data driven, right? Data driven decisions to make good decisions, ultimately to make what's the right move for my business next. Did I overtouch? Did I undertouch? Should I send more email? Are they on HomeBot? Who isn't on HomeBot? Why are they not on HomeBot? What can I do about it? All that stuff makes a ton of sense. So what about in the future, right? You mentioned that your sister's going to get in the business. Remind me, isn't your assistant also a relative?
She is. She's my sister-in-law. So
there you go. Okay.
She's licensed, so she helps me with some of that stuff. And then my sister got in the business as well. She doesn't work under me, but I've been mentoring her, and she's been doing really well. So yeah, so I don't know what the future is going to look like for me. I just became partner in April, which was really exciting. So there's 5 of us now.
Congrats.
And so that's kind of been a big weight on my shoulders this last year, this last couple months, trying to learn all of that. So really just, I think for me is just really honing in and being more efficient and effective with what I'm doing, and just being more of a player in this market. That even though I'm new and I've done a lot of business, there's still people out there that I think I can touch way more and get to know way more.
So what will you do to expand your brand? You talk about your marketing plan, and I know what your direct mail and email and HomeBot. Are you thinking about video? Are you not? And I'm not attached. You know I'm a fan of video, obviously, right? But I'm not attached. What else can you do to touch and reach more people?
I think video would be huge for me. I just got to get over my fear of getting in front of the camera and doing it every day and thinking, I always feel like nobody wants to see me. I don't want to be annoying, but I also know that I think it would be really huge in my business. I think with as many emails and I have, if I could do a video newsletter or something, I think I could connect more rather than just something in front. I just need to get over my fear and just do it.
Yeah. I had a feeling it was just a fear thing because, people at your level, like we just go perform, right? We just go do our thing. So where does that fear come from and what would it take to get over it? I mean, you're on video, you're on camera right now. You look great.
Oh, thanks. I think I just have to do it. Sometimes I just have to jump in with both feet. And I don't want to, sometimes it's the reputation thing of like, oh, when I'm out and about, they're like, oh, there she is, the one that's always on Facebook, or on Instagram. So I think just getting over that reality, and as long as I'm providing value and not just putting stuff out there just to put stuff out there, that there's value behind it, that I think people will take it serious.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So I got to ask, cause you brought it up earlier. Are you getting more time off?
I'm trying.
I'm trying. So which one, Bethany, which one is it?
I could definitely use more, but it's much better. We bought an investment property this last year and on a lake. And so we've been spending some time up there. It's a good getaway for me for a good night or two.
Yeah.
And I always tell everybody about it so that when my girls get older, they want to hang out with me, that I'm be the cool mom.
Yeah, I love it. Congrats. And look, I mean, I think everybody listening knows, like I went through when I started my business, I literally said to my wife, okay, it's going to take me 5 years to get this thing going, which means 5 years of, 7 days a week, learning, growing, grinding. She would come in and say, why are you still on Facebook? I'm like, because Facebook was like new. And I was like, because I can talk to thousands of people. This is like me doing a seminar. This is like you doing an open house. And she's like, she would just roll her eyes. And I go, remember, I told you 5 years. It takes 5 years to really establish the business. So I have to ask, kind of last question, where do you think you'll be at year 5? Transactions, volume, GCI. What do you dream about? Where do you think you're going to be?
Yeah. So I really would love to hit that 100 mark. I think that's doable. And I would really like to, I love every client, but I really enjoy being that go-to realtor for my friends, my family, my neighborhood, and people that I know around. And right now, like I want to work with people that are around me and are loyal to me. So that is my goal. I really want to hit that 100 mark. I'd really like to hit. I'm at 14.3 pending and closed this year. I'd love to hit 20, maybe 25 down the road. But I'd love to be number 1 or 2 or 3 in the market.
Number 1 or 2 or 3. I think it's number 1. I think
I would really like.
You're like, I like playing in golf tournaments where I take second.
Yeah.
I like losing in softball. Yeah.
No, I would. It'd be a good goal for me to achieve.
Well, you got to tell your coach that. You got to tell your coach. I will to everybody listening right now. I was doing some research on the 5 biggest MLSs in the country, and it is startling what's happening right now around the U.S. specifically, where take 1.6 million realtors, take the bottom 50%, they generated about 9% of all the commissions. Like, think about that. Like, that's 800,000 people basically dividing up 9%. And then the top, right, are controlling everything. And when you look at the top 1%, 5%, 10%, 25%, they're basically controlling the market. So you're there, but the delta between being in the top 25% and being number one is massive. So if I had to make a bet, I would absolutely bet on you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Now you've set me up for a challenge. So
yes,
I can't let you down.
Hey, this would be fun. We should do a podcast 3 years from now, right? So I'm just looking at my team like, yes, all right, podcast 3 years from now. But Bethany, I just want to say thank you. You know, you were wide open. You shared a ton of stuff. Are you going to do the chant, or are you going to try and get off this call without doing a chant? There's no way. There's no way. I can't let you off the hook. Tell me something, and tell me something fast.
Okay. Well, because it's your birthday, I will do it for you.
All right. Now that's a great birthday gift. Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
You know how long it's been since I've done this? Oh my gosh. I haven't even done this like for my own team here. They probably are going to be like, oh my gosh.
Bring it on. Let's go. This is the opening of the podcast, by the way, in case we're wondering. This is the part that's going to be edited and on Instagram. No pressure.
Oh my goodness. All right. Here we go. I'll sell you your drink. How's that?
Yes, perfect.
All right. 2.5 and a 5, 2.5 and a 5, 5, 5, 5, now 7.5, 7.5 and now 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, now 12 and a half, 12 and a half, now 15, 12 and a half and now 15, 12 and a half and now 15, sold. $12.50.
You should do that on your next listing presentation. What do you guys want to list your house for? $199.99.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Bethany, you are such a star. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And listen, people, if they want to reach you, they can find you on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. Is there an email if they want to ping you and say, how do I hear more? What's your best email?
Yeah, you can email me at bethany.benner@oakridge.net. You can give me a call, text me, email me, and I'll give you my phone number.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And I guarantee you're going to get a bunch of questions like, how did you do it? And what do you recommend? And this is what I'm thinking about. And hey, you're a part of our community. Thank you for being in the ecosystem. Thank you for contributing to everybody today. And for all my friends out there that are listening, you can do it too. You just got to decide. You heard she's giving you basically the blueprint. So as we wrap this up, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Can't wait to see you all next week. Make sure you leave a comment, something below. Absolutely, Bethany will be, I'm sure, on YouTube or on whatever main page you're watching this on, and she'll make some comments back. So keep up the good work. Stay in action. Happy New Year. Let's get into 2022. See you guys soon. Take care.